welcome back to the Total Transition Podcast, where we explore the transition journey with a focus on humanity at the center of all of life's changes. I'm Jordana McGonigal, I'm your host, and every other week we bring you inspiring stories from other veterans who have successfully navigated their own transitions, as well as practical insights from experts in all aspects of living fully. This week, we're talking with Rachelle Waite-Bey, president of Waite SLTS, where she is a highly sought-after cybersecurity professional, if I can get this out, my goodness, focusing on corporate security compliance. Rachelle is originally from New Jersey and is an Air Force veteran, but her military duties are fascinating. They included supporting Air Force Two as a flight attendant, and her last duty station was in support of the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe as one of 3 hand-selected flight attendants to support the NATO command. In both roles, Rachelle flew on special air missions to Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And now she's on the podcast. So, Rachelle, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor. You are always doing great things and impacting communities. So I'm like, this is a great opportunity.
So Rachelle is my hype girl today. We are just propping each other up. So thanks for joining us for it. So Rachelle, we always start off this podcast, talking about transition because our listeners are often going through that initial transition phase out of the military, or they maybe have been out but are still kind of in that process of like, I haven't landed yet, I haven't settled yet. So the first thing I always like to do is talk about your military career and what led up to it. Like, how do you decide to do this, and how do you get such a cool job in the military? Like, how did that all work out for you?
It's funny. Last night I was just thinking about my experience. Although it was in 1999, it was an experience that was it's so honorable because not everyone is able to join the military. So being able to join and be accepted, it was an honor. And so initially what I joined to do was be in the services career field. And in that career field, I cross-trained. After 4 years in, I cross-trained into becoming a flight attendant, and I was selected to support the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe. Upon separation, I wasn't quite sure what separation looked like. Mm-hmm. Before leaving the military. First, I was in the military for nearly 10 years. So coming out, I didn't know where to begin. So I think one of my very first challenges was first, okay, it's been 10 years since I've been out. What do I do?
Right.
The world had shifted. The world had changed. When I joined, it was in the 90s. So cellular phones were coming out. We had beepers.
The world really did change while you were in there.
It just changed. And so coming out, I had to discover who Rachelle was. Mm-hmm. As a veteran in society. And the first thing that I knew I wanted to do is still be a part of a community. Mm-hmm. My community growing up was my family. I lived in a 2-parent household with my sisters. I was the youngest. But I joined at a young age. I came out, my sisters were married. My parents still together, but I did not know what my role was or what forward looked like. Mm-hmm. So separating, I think what was paramount was researching veteran organizations and re- rediscovering how I would be able to impact my local community from a veteran's perspective. I think if you ask 90% of veterans, while once they have separated, one of the very first things they want to do is ground their family and get back actively involved in the community, because that involvement in the community, it helps for evolvement and growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and you touched on something when you go into the military early in life, right? Young, you do a lot of your growing up and a lot of your kind of self awareness is coming at the time while you're in service. And so when you leave, you then have to kind of figure out it's almost like going through it again. Okay, who am I outside of service, right? So what did that look like? You're coming out at obviously it's different time. People have changed, things have changed, the world has changed. But how do you come out of that and say, okay, this is who I was, this is who I still am, and this is who I'm going to be going forward? How do you start dissecting that?
Well, one thing that that's a great question, honestly, because one thing you don't think about when you're in the military is the work that you are actually doing. You're you're finding a new way. That's the start of your professional career.
Mm-hmm.
So as you perform the work, you really don't know how to translate the work that was performed on a resume or in terms to support the work and show that experience of the work that you performed in the military.
Right.
So it was paramount. And I'll say this, one thing about veterans, and we may not realize, is that our work ethics are different. So we learn that those organizational skills, and we were provided with that structure while in the military. And you're you have to uh, implement what is taught, what the skills that you were taught in the military, and discover how those skills will help you with your professional career post service.
Mm-hmm.
So as your work ethics are different, it's that organizational skills that you were taught, you want to make sure that those are implemented as you rediscover who you are once separating.
Right.
And some of those things that keeps you organized, or for me, is I still keep, normally it's a green notebook, but this is the orange. Orange is my favorite color. But keeping yourself organized with those to-do lists, keeping that calendar right in front of you, knowing what you have to do in the run, and making sure you're giving yourself goals. So not only are you helping yourself, but you're also holding yourself accountable for doing the things that you need to get done.
Right. I want to go back a little bit because you had a really interesting career. Like I hear career stories all the time. They're all fascinating to me because, I wasn't in that. But like you're a flight attendant on Air Force 2. That's pretty cool. How do you decide to leave that kind of work? Like what was it? Was there something that happened, or was there just a moment where you said, okay, this is time for this chapter to close and I need to move on? And then how do you decide where to move from there? I mean, it's just to your point that you were just making. putting flight attendant Air Force 2 on a local job resume, it's cool, but what am I going to do with that as an employer, right? Like I don't have a plane out back, or we're not globally traveling constantly, that kind of thing. So what did that transition look for you? How did you decide to come out? What was that like? And what walls did you hit trying to make that navigation?
So it's Air Force Two, an amazing opportunity. Um, and it's easier to say where I have not been than to say where I have been, honestly. But that support, it was the support getting out during the transition. Uh, it was so paramount. It was so making the decision to get out. It was more of I had gotten my degree, and it was time for me to expand and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew, um, I really had to evaluate. I truly had to evaluate whether I was going to continue, or if I was going to, if I was going. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to going to officer school, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But being in the military, I was able to get my degree. And getting my degree, I saw the opportunities to impact impact the lives of others from a technical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why it's important for me to stay connected to the veteran community, because within the veteran community, I'm able to help my brothers, sisters in arms, and their families excel with technology and cybersecurity, AI. As we become innovative, those are the things that I had to really think about when it was time for me to honorably separate from the military. So, but the key was finding the communities, those veteran communities that I could support and volunteer and stay actively involved in, like I was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when you came out, was the plan always to kind of be in cybersecurity? Was that where you were already being led, or did you have other plans that kind of were like, oh, well, that didn't work, that kind of thing?
Well, sometimes what military members do before getting out is they have two options. Either you have a job lined up, or you have to start searching for a job. And so I was a flight attendant, but I didn't want to become a flight attendant.
Right.
Post
Do you know who
military.
I've flown with? I can just see you as
And
a flight
so
attendant now. Like, lady, sit down.
and so I followed my that re, finding my rediscovering myself and finding myself was when I really went inside and said, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I love doing, and that what comes to me easily? Like, it's not a job. Um, and that one thing was technology, but technology is so expansive, that I had to really focus and say, well, what is it that I really want to do? And over the years, uh, going to school, getting the certifications, staying actively involved in the different technology and cybersecurity communities, it allowed me to be in positions where I'm the executive, where I'm teaching cybersecurity, where I'm coming up with strategies. So it was important for me to, like I said, rediscover who I am and what I can bring to others, and how I can serve others. and technology was just my the one thing I can do with my eyes closed.
Right. Right. So I want to talk about that a little bit because I think there's, when we look at what we consider holistic or total transition, we're looking at all of the different aspects of life, right? You come out, you make sure you've got a place to stay, you got food, you got water, you've got sleep, right? The basics.
Mm-hmm.
You move up to kind of this hierarchy, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy. And one of those is in safety and security. And I think we live now in a world where that means different things. Yes, that means that your job is secure and you're kind of safe, and that your home is secure and kind of safe. But then we started thinking about, your digital persona. We're all online, right? We're all there. If you're listening or watching this, you're online, right? So, as a cybersecurity professional, what are things that people need to do in order to protect themselves, their companies, their data? I mean, we live in a world where it's like, oh, a new data breach. Well, they have my stuff anyway, right? I think we can get very lackadaisical, but it's really important that we're protecting ourselves in those ways. So, what would your advice from a professional standpoint be in that area?
So, many do breaches and cyber attacks happen almost on a minute to minute basis.
Right.
But they happen so frequently that unfortunately, that is the that is the thought that hey, it's another breach. Okay, they have my information, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. And to have a proactive mindset um, allows one to personally be mindful instead of being reactive. When because that the mindset of, oh, it happened again, puts you in the lackadaisical mindset versus the panic mindset. But you have to have a healthy balance with that, because if you've been attacked, just know there will be another one that follows that one that you've already experienced. And your mindset should be, well, how do I still prevent that from happening? Because now that they've hacked into and they have my information, now I have to prepare myself for what are the repercussions after that. So I encourage having that proactive mindset personally, collectively and collaboratively. We have to be vigilant in the way we, you work from home. I've said before, and my setup right now is still the same. You should never have your device that has a webcam or the monitor to face the window. This day and age, unfortunately, you never know if someone, it could be looking within in your window. Just look at social media and you can see someone recording someone who's looking through a window. It's not uncommon. So just being vigilant and not just thinking of self, think of the community. You have to think of our elders. I know an elder that she's been receiving phone calls asking for her information, and I laugh because that elder had the correct connections and was able to infiltrate. And that's the mindset that you want to have. Okay, I have this call that I received, and I've never signed up for these services. So why would I provide you with this information? And that elder was not aware of what the proper steps were to be, but making others aware allowed that elder to have that support that was needed to mitigate any breach that could have occurred. So it's a collective strategy you have to think of, and you know, supporting each other, going through another, working with another individual to help them put the security features on their phone where they are only using their biometrics, or where they're using a PIN to sign up. Some type of security features that are in place to prevent breaching or to prevent hacking, not storing your credit card information in an app, logging out of an app. Those are some simple, you may think that it's just a simple step, but they are steps that can prevent breaches to personal and family data.
Well, I feel attacked right now, personally. No. No, but I think that you make an excellent point, maybe even inadvertently. I think part of the challenge is that the general public, we know about like a phishing scam, or you know, the basic stuff. So if we've grown up around technology, we have a certain degree of knowledge about, you know, oh, it could get stolen here, or that kind of thing, or you know, somebody's going to send you a toll pass bill that's due. You've never been on a toll road in your life, and you know, that kind of thing. So I think we understand that there's stuff out there, but I don't know that a lot of us understand the true risk, right? Like, what are the things that can actually happen? Obviously, your identity could be stolen, which is a nightmare. Obviously, you could have your bank information hacked and cleaned out. You know, there's stuff that, so what is, maybe scare us a little bit, like, right? So that we do take the credit card off the phone. That was very convenient. All of the convenience that we have these days. So what are the things that we need to be aware of? Like, this is the why you need to protect yourself so much. It's not just that someone else has your info and everyone else does already anyway. What does that actually look like for us as a population or as a society if some of this stuff were to happen?
Great question. I want to use an example of a utility company that was breached. That utility company provided water to homes. If someone were to increase the volumes on the, you know, the pH levels of that utility provider, if security is not in place, physical security too, if they're not in place in these service providers locations that are offering us services, not only is it detrimental to humanity, but you also have the possibilities of the adversary connecting to a satellite that is a satellite offering resources to a community. Those it's just like it's just like it's just like a someone coming into your home and taking your valuables. If someone breaching a satellite can impact it can impact humanity and and in a way where um, we could lose power. We could lose the ability to access networks. Um, it's not, we're not at the stage where it's unrealistic, where things that we would see in on TV, someone adding uh, improper um, um, intellectual property, just damaging, just damaging to humanity. I don't. We have to see it from a realistic viewpoint, where even technology could ultimately be the next uh, um, vehicle for unfortunate, steps in life.
Right. So, from a personal perspective, because obviously that makes a lot of sense, right? We don't want energy systems or utilities or financial system. We don't want this information to be out. What is our role as the general public? Someone who doesn't control how well my utility service is protecting themselves, or as someone who, by my own state, oh, you were part of a breach, sorry, that kind of thing. What is our role in that? Like, do we need to be more vocal? Do we need to be, do we need to take additional steps on our own to protect our own things? What is the realistic output with limited control on other entities and how they protect themselves? What is our route from here?
Our route is to become innovative. We have to collectively come up with innovative solutions. Um, in the corporate world, what happens in the corporate world? We have um, scenarios that are played out, called exercises, of what happens when that natural disaster does occur. So you are being prepared from the corporate perspective, but what are you doing from a community or a perspective of a family or personal perspective? Some of those things are preparing yourself um, um, with survival tactics, with survival skills, with protecting yourself, your family. Um, there's various ways you have to protect yourself and your family, and this is the day and times where you have to think, how am I prepared to protect my family? Is not enough. What is in place that has actively um, prepared myself and those around me for that breach, that natural disaster that is going to have a global impact, and global that reaches on a global scale? What is being done? What type of uh, how will you be communicating with others when that breach does occur? We unfortunately experienced a network outage, in global network outage, in July of last year, or June or July of last year, I believe it was. And directly after that incident, after it occurred, was the time for families to practice their due diligence by making their children aware of what needs to be done in the family. This is how we are preparing. Do you have a survival kit? Do you have walkie talkies within your survival kit? Do you have you prepared yourself for the what ifs? You want to be proactive, and it's not just with cybersecurity. It's in real life. Some of the skills that we were taught within the military, we have to get into our communities and help others with some of those skills, and showing them. Sometimes we have to take that leadership and be that liaison to help others in those times of need.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've appropriately scared me now, because I was thinking we're talking about getting credit cards off the phone, and now we're talking about full-scale prepping, which I am not. So, but it does make sense. It does make sense that, when technology runs the world collapses when technology collapses. So it makes total sense. So I want to take this back to like an individual level really quick. So real quick, what are the things that personally, obviously preparing for the situation like you just talked about, but personally, what do we need to be doing in terms of digital safety, the basics that we need to be considering to keep our stuff safe, while we are also kind of looking at this larger and considering this larger global impact, or, national impact should something happen?
So I'd like to say that the top three items to prepare yourself is to be vigilant, but not to only think of yourself, helping others. Number one, I would monitor my applications on my phone on a weekly basis to see if I am logged in and if there is a need for me to stay logged in. If you are logged in, log out of your applications and try to get into the mindset of my login information is not that challenging for me to input, for me to access the application.
You're really killing us neurodiverse people here.
That's the number one. That is the number one.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
The second thing is to make sure that you are doing checks on your social security information, to make sure to monitor your information. I just received a notification today to check my report. Don't become complacent, because you have gotten used to these weekly updates, breaches, the stealing of data. If it's happened to one, it will happen to you. That's the mindset you have to have. And thirdly, if there's an update on your phone, please implement it.
So the people that are trying to help us, we need to help them help us by updating stuff.
Let's get through it together, guys.
All right. Well, it's very painful. My life going forward is going to have to be remembering passwords and logging out of stuff. You're not my favorite person anymore, but
and I'm going to add, Jordana. I would change my password at least once a month. at least once a month.
And we're not using the same password for everything, right?
Not at all. Special characters, at least 12 letters.
Well, guys, it's been fun, but from here out, my brain is completely taken with password manifestation.
That's it. That's it. Yes.
It was a successful, productive life while I had one. But
and technology will take it from here.
Right. Well, cool. Well, Rachelle, thank you so much for joining us today. I love having this. It's a little bit different from some of our other guests, but like having real, tangible things that we need to like consider in order to live a real a thriving life, right? Don't survive, thrive, get through things, make sure you're protected. That security is absolutely important to us as humans, and digital security in this world is kind of a given. So I want to thank you so much for just coming on the show with us.
I can't thank you enough and Total Transition Podcast enough for this opportunity. Protecting yourself is a serious matter, and if there's ever a need that I can assist with technology or consult with security, please feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me at Waite, WAITE, USA.com, and RECON, the Total Transition. I thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, again, we appreciate your time and your insight. It's very, very helpful, even if some of us are more stubborn than others. I'm speaking of me, but
we'll get through it together.
We'll make it, right? Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Listeners, check us out on everywhere where you get your podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube and see our smiling, willing faces. Make sure you connect with Rachelle on LinkedIn or any of the other ways that she's provided. She is a true asset. And if you are looking to up your security game, definitely someone that you want to connect with. So guys, appreciate you joining us for this episode. We'll have more episodes coming up. So check us out on the next one. Connect with us in the meantime, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.